The Invisible Revolution: How Black Women Are Redefining American Entrepreneurship. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. I'm LeAnne Dolce, pronounced Dole-say, and I'm about to share something that will fundamentally challenge how you see power, innovation, and the future of business in America. I recently had the extraordinary privilege of interviewing Miriam Murphy, a brilliant researcher whose work has left me profoundly transformed. If you haven't heard of Miriam yet, remember this moment because her groundbreaking research is quietly documenting a revolution so powerful yet so overlooked that it's rewriting the rules of our economy from the inside out. Miriam has spent the last decade meticulously tracking entrepreneurial trends with a particular focus on overlooked communities, and what she's uncovered isn't just surprising, it's revolutionary. When Miriam first shared her findings with me, I was stunned. Not just surprised, truly stunned, because what she revealed challenges everything we think we know about who's driving innovation and business creation in America today. Here's the revelation that stopped me in my tracks. Black women are not just participating in entrepreneurship, they are leading it. This isn't speculation or wishful thinking. This is data. This is reality. In 2024, nearly half of all new businesses in America were started by women. And among Black owned businesses, women were more likely than men to be founders. Let that sink in for a moment. The narrative is shifted. Black women are at the forefront of shaping entrepreneurial culture in America today. But here's where things get complicated and where our conversation needs to go deeper. Despite this surge in Black women's entrepreneurship, the systems supporting business growth haven't caught up. The money hasn't followed, the recognition hasn't materialized. And that disconnect reveals something profound about how we value innovation, leadership, and economic contribution in this country. When I spoke with Miriam Murphy about her research, three critical insights emerged that I believe can transform how we understand not just business, but power itself in America. First, Black women entrepreneurs have become a driving force behind new business growth across industries, from healthcare and social assistance to retail. They're not just opening businesses, they're reshaping entire sectors with approaches that center community needs and sustainable growth models. Second, despite their outsized impact, Black female founders still face staggering funding gaps. Female only founding teams received just 2.3% of venture capital funding in 2025. That's not a typo, 2.3%. Yet visionaries like Catherine Finney have proven that data driven advocacy can unlock millions for overlooked entrepreneurs. And third, success as a Black woman entrepreneur often means building on hard won expertise. Most Black women start their ventures after gaining significant experience and education in the workforce, leveraging those skills into thriving businesses. Even amid broader economic challenges like disproportionate job losses. What makes these insights so powerful is that they challenge our fundamental assumptions about innovation, resilience, and what it means to create value in our economy. They force us to confront uncomfortable questions about who we celebrate as visionaries and who we overlook. Let me share with you the story of Catherine Finney, which Miriam Murphy highlighted in our conversation. Catherine's journey illuminates exactly what's possible when we combine expertise with advocacy. Catherine began by launching one of the earliest successful fashion blogs, The Budget Fashionista, back in 2003. This was before influencer was even a word, before Instagram existed. She eventually sold that business and could have simply enjoyed her success. Instead, she looked around and saw a problem that demanded her attention. Black women entrepreneurs were receiving less than 3% of venture capital dollars. But what made this problem particularly insidious wasn't just the disparity, it was the silence around it. There was a profound lack of data transparency about these funding gaps. So, what did Catherine do? She founded Digital Undivided and later Genius Guild with a radical approach, using rigorous research and public advocacy to highlight these inequities. Her mantra became data to break the silence. The results? Over $100 million raised for more than 2,500 Black women entrepreneurs, national recognition as an industry changemaker, platforms that amplified minority voices, sustainable funding pipelines built through data driven storytelling. But perhaps most importantly, Catherine proved something essential. Strategic visibility plus research can transform access for marginalized groups. She didn't just succeed personally, she created pathways for thousands of others. This is what dropping the superwoman cape looks like in practice. Not diminishing your power, but redirecting it toward collective liberation. Not hustling harder in isolation, but creating systems that lift us all. Now let's look at another phenomenon Miriam Murphy documented: the surge in women led startups following the pandemic. In 2024 alone, nearly half, 49%, of all new US businesses were started by women. This represents a historic high, with younger generations of millennials and Gen Z fueling this surge, especially among AAPI and Black communities. What makes this trend so remarkable is that it emerged despite systemic barriers, including lower access to traditional financing channels and pandemic related job instability that disproportionately affected minority groups like Black women. How did they overcome these obstacles? Many leveraged community focused sectors such as healthcare and social services, where entry costs may be lower but impact is high. They drew on advanced education and workforce experience gained before the pandemic. When traditional employment paths faltered, they created their own. The outcome has been nothing short of transformative, shifted industry demographics toward greater diversity and inclusion at the founder level, and the creation of resilient microeconomies within underserved communities. This represents the highest ever percentage share for female founded startups since tracking began. These entrepreneurs are setting new standards and norms around who belongs at America's entrepreneurial table. But, and this is a significant but, despite this explosive growth, the funding landscape remains deeply unequal. This brings me to the third insight Miriam Murphy shared. Despite all this progress, only about 2 to 6% of venture capital dollars went toward companies with exclusively female founding teams by mid 2025. For teams led by minority women, the numbers are even more dismal. The challenge is clear. Entrenched bias within investment networks means most capital flows toward male dominated ventures, despite evidence that diverse leadership boosts returns and performance. Some solutions are emerging. Funds and platforms specifically targeting underrepresented founders have begun shifting resources, but progress remains painfully slow without continued pressure and data transparency from advocates like Catherine Finney. The outcomes show incremental increases year over year, signaling gradual improvement, but also underscoring the need for persistent advocacy and community support structures alongside formal finance reforms. What's particularly telling is how persistent disparities prompted the creation and growth of alternative accelerators and incubators catering specifically to minority and women led ventures after the pandemic. Seed stage investments rose modestly to about 3% allocation, in part due to grassroots organizing and data sharing. This ongoing challenge highlights the necessity and effectiveness of collective action plus tailored resource pipelines. Now, I want to pause here and acknowledge something important. These statistics and stories might sound academic, they might seem distant from your daily reality, but I promise you they are anything but. These numbers represent real women making extraordinary decisions every single day. Women who saw broken systems and instead of accepting them, built alternatives. Women who faced rejection after rejection from traditional funders and instead of giving up, created their own funding networks. Women who were told their ideas weren't viable, their markets weren't valuable, their leadership wasn't credible, and who proved those assessments catastrophically wrong. The data shows that Black women aren't just participating in this economy, they're reimagining it. They're not just building businesses, they're creating new models of value. They're not just seeking profit, they're pursuing purpose. And that's why this invisible revolution matters so much. It's not just about who gets funding or who starts businesses, it's about who gets to define what business is for, what success looks like, what progress means. As Miriam Murphy so eloquently put it in our interview, when we change who creates businesses, we change what businesses create. So here's my challenge to you today. What would our economy look like if we fully recognized and invested in this revolution? What innovations are we missing because we're not funding diverse founders? What problems could be solved if we expanded our definition of what makes a good investment? And more personally, how might you be complicit in maintaining these barriers? If you're an investor, are you examining your own biases in who you fund? If you're a consumer, are you intentionally supporting businesses led by women of color? If you're an entrepreneur yourself, are you building networks that include or exclude? The data is clear. The revolution is happening whether we acknowledge it or not. Black women are creating the future of American business right now, often without recognition or support. Imagine what could happen if we removed the barriers. Imagine what could be possible if we invested in this talent at scale. This isn't just about equity or fairness, though those matter deeply. This is about unleashing economic potential that benefits everyone. This is about creating more resilient, innovative, and sustainable business models. This is about recognizing that the future is already here. It's just unevenly distributed. The question isn't whether Black women will continue to lead in entrepreneurship. They will. The question is whether the rest of us will have the wisdom to follow their lead, to fund their visions, to amplify their innovations, to transform our systems to match the transformation they're already creating. The invisible revolution is waiting to be seen. The question is, will you see it? And more importantly, what will you do once you do? Thank you.